I'm not real sure how I got on that, except we're in Hebrews 10:2, so let's jump back in. For then they would not have ceased to be offered, for the worshipers, here it is, once purified would have had no more consciousness of sins. God's end game was not to get them to not sin. God's end game, well, let's say it this way. The end game is yes, that you don't miss the mark, but how do you get there? By cleaning the conscience of the offerer. And so if your conscience is clean, I know I'm forgiven. I know I'm righteous. Yeah, but look what you just did. You don't understand. I'm forgiven. I'm righteous. My conscience is clean. Then I move forward in liberty in the world, and then I don't live beneath a guilty, evil conscience. Because what happens is, as my conscience is evil and wicked, I will offer up dead works to serve a living God. And that's some of the things we'll get into as we move forward. Verse 3, but in those sacrifices, there's a reminder of their sins every year, because it's not possible that the blood of bulls and goats could take away sins. Look at that verse. It is not possible that the blood of bulls and goats could take away sins. Didn't work. That's what I'm trying to say. Didn't work. And the 4th verse of Hebrews 10 tells you, didn't work. Didn't make you perfect. Didn't clean up your conscience. Didn't take away your sins. So what did it do? I mean, really, it didn't make you perfect. It didn't clean up your conscience. And it didn't take away your sins. So what did it do? Well, it temporarily tried to do all of those things. And God's not responding. God's not in the Old Testament going, okay, here, I can't figure this out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the priest kill a bull. And let's try that. And, that didn't work. So let's kill a goat. Let's kill one goat and then let another goat go. And then I want you to do that every year. That'll work. No, God was never confused. God's building layers of confidence in a performance-based system. It's all you can do is build performance confidences in a performance-based system. Performance confidence. And you're still never you're going to change this, and you're not going to change this, right? This is going to get stacks of rules, and I can keep them, I'll be okay. This stays the same. Jesus walked right into that world, and he goes, you guys feel good about not committing adultery? This is the whole point of the Sermon on the Mount, by the way, is to confront the stack of confidences built by the law. Feel good about not committing adultery? Yeah, we never committed adultery. I say unto you, you wanted to, though. You were guilty in your heart. In other words, your stack of confidences don't really do anything to make you a different man. Do they? And all of them had to admit, no, they don't. That's the whole point of the ministry of Jesus, was to say your stack of confidences, though God gave them to you, he had to give them to you because that's the only thing you have under a performance covenant, is a stack of confidences. A thing I can do, and then a thing I can do, and then a thing I can do. But I don't change in that system. And the Father wants me to be a new creation. So the cross is Jesus taking all of that into him so that the resurrected Jesus can be the new man inside of us. That's from here to here. That's performance and old covenant confidences to, I'm a new man with a new heart. I got a new creation. I'm not who I used to be. I have a new shot on the earth. I'm walking in a new skin. I'm not what I was. My whole name's changed. And that stuff gets personified. That's Saul to Paul. That's the walking out of this thing of here's what I was, and now here's who I am. All right, so the New Testament sees Jesus as that culminating sacrifice. That's the purpose of Calvary. Jesus is both the goat that dies. Jesus is the scapegoat that goes into the wilderness. He's the embodiment of every sacrifice. He's saturated with the sin of the offerer. Then Hebrews 7. Go back just a little bit. Hebrews chapter 7. We'll give you a couple more verses. We're going to take care of that priest side. Verse 26. You watch this high priest. New King James capitalizes the H on high and the P on priest, and it does it to show you that this is talking about Jesus. That helps in this text. For such a high priest was fitting for us, who is holy and harmless and undefiled. The word harmless, by the way, is better translated from the Greek as innocent. Our high priest is holy, innocent, undefiled. He's separate from sinners, and he has become higher than the heavens, who does not need daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifices, first for his own sins, and then for the people's. For this he did once for all when he offered up himself. Did you catch this? He doesn't need to offer up a sin for his own self, because he's a high priest that's innocent. And how often did he offer himself? Once for all. What was Leviticus 16, the last verse? How often do you do this? Once a year. Remember that? Hebrews 7:27, they offered individual sacrifices once a day. Jesus comes along to end sacrifices for all time. First of all, ending it for himself. He doesn't need to sacrifice for himself. He doesn't have any, he's innocent. And he doesn't need to continue to offer up sacrifice over and over for the children of Israel. So Hebrews has acknowledged the system didn't work. The system didn't work, and here's why, guys. Because you have a defect inside of you, and the Bible tried to tell us this from the beginning. This is the reason for the Garden of Eden story, by the way. The Garden of Eden story is to introduce you to your conscience. It's to tell you why you have one and why it can't be trusted. It just can't be trusted because sometimes it'll lead you in the wrong direction. Why will it do that? Because the Garden of Eden story was to tell you that sometimes your conscience can find the good and sometimes your conscience will find the evil. And that confuses us to death. It confused ancient man too. It had to. That's why the story of the Garden of Eden made sense. I opened my eyes to a world full of both good and evil. And sometimes I nail it and sometimes I don't. And that's a crapshoot. It's 50-50, which is okay if it's where do we eat dinner. It's really bad if should I do this and someone might die if I do. It's like it's a whole lot different than the 50-50 where do we eat dinner. Now it's 50-50 do I go right or do I go left. I don't know. One way's evil, one way's good. I'm just doing the best I can. And that's humanity. Just doing the best we can. The Old Testament system didn't clean that up. Because the way to the tree of life is not found through the performance of fig leaves. That's the Genesis story. You fail, you put on fig leaves, you hide in a bush. You can't get to the tree of life. It's got a sword hanging over it. The way is guarded. The best you've got is to hide your nakedness in front of God. God's not mad. God's not even ticked off. He comes and finds you in the garden, covered in aprons, and says, let's go walk this out. And you walk it out through the whole Bible, and when you get to Calvary, you get to go back to the tree. This is the Bible in microcosm, by the way. That's the truly condensed version, but that's my own lifetime of reading it, inside of it and outside of it, and going, what could you say in 2 sentences or 3? And that's the best I can do. That was the story of the Bible, and that journey is our journey to the cross and then beyond. And what God's really doing is trying to open a way back up to the tree of life so that you can live by that tree rather than live by your old dead conscience, because your old conscience can't be trusted. You'll miss it half the time if you're lucky. On the best day, you'll get it half the time. But with the tree of life, you follow life. You don't follow just goods, evils, bad, rights, and wrongs. You follow what leads to life, not what leads to death. And that's the whole role of the new creation.